Hey everybody, this is Perch. I posted up a video earlier about how I believe Marvel's going to have a pretty turbulent 2021. And this is in the prediction category, and I still stand by that. There's a lot of kind of things that have been publicly stated. There's a lot of things that are remotely, behind the scenes, what I would call into rumor category. And there's also just kind of looking at how Disney likes to do things and kind of their general status and approach when they cut back. And all those signs indicate that Marvel's going to have a turbulent 2021. Now, one thing about Marvel that is, I don't want to say unique or different or whatever else in terms of how they are as a company, is they keep their dirty laundry much better in-house than other companies, in particular DC does. Marvel tends to, they don't have as many leaks. They don't have as much, the noise doesn't get out. And I think, by the way, Marvel has a reputation for coming off as arrogant from time to time. This is one of the reasons, actually. There's a number of them, but one of them is that they do tend to not air their dirty laundry as much in public. Now, they do other things. It's funny because people like to group everything together. I mean, you can go back about 4 years, and you had a bunch of editors very publicly posting things on social media that were, based on the election or based on different personalities at the time, people, other artists, other creators, other YouTubers. You had all that stuff going on, but this is different than people from Marvel like calling up Rich Johnston and giving him news and scoops. They tend to not do that, not as much. I can't tell you why. I don't know if there's a big threat that goes on there. For whatever reason, the culture tends to keep the news closer to the vest. Therefore, I think some of this will come as a surprise, and I also think it will be managed a little bit better. But the point of this video is not to talk about Marvel again, but about DC. So DC Comics obviously had a rough 2020. They had 2 series of layoffs, and this is where I need to change the story. It's not DC Comics had layoffs, it's Warner Media and AT&T had layoffs. And why it's important to view it that way is because these layoffs were being, we're targeting a bunch of people. We're here in comics, we're like, oh man, comics bloodbath. It's like, yeah, but it was kind of, director and VP level bloodbath across all those business units. There's a bunch of, you don't see a whole community built up over the production departments at their studios. They're just, go figure. There's not a deep love and community around that kind of stuff. But everybody got hit. And so Bleeding Cool runs an article right in time for the holidays around that a third round of layoffs is coming, and it will be a third bloodbath, and they've got little pictures of bloodbath and everything else. And this generated some people, on kind of both sides, like I am scared and I am happy, kind of reactions. Happy that some of these people are getting what they deserve and everything else. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, the validity of this argument. I did a show a bit, so you can go to Thinking Critical. We talk a little bit about this. I think that in general, first off, you can't, unless you're one of the people involved, of course, you can't over dramatize what's going on here. So keep this in your mind. AT&T is a big company, has been laying off and adjusting their workforce. We can use HR correct language. They're right-sizing their workforce based on the pandemic, changing business needs, business realignment, shuffling, all those happy things that HR departments like to put in PowerPoint decks. But the reality is it's hitting everywhere, and it's gone through a couple different groups, and it's going to hit a few more, the manager, director, and basically people are being asked, hey, do more with less. That's the message. In fact, that's the exact message from an email from a friend I have at Warner Media. That's exactly the message he got, explaining why his 2 open headcount, basically 2 positions he was going to hire, he suddenly can't hire. The mail will exactly stated, do more with less. Okay, why not? That's what they're going through. Now, is there another bloody day where more people leave? So here's where Bleeding Cool is definitely overhyping this thing. And why do they do that? Well, based on their traffic, the DC layoff bloodbath articles they did were some of the highest hit of the entire year. Definitely of the second half of the year. It outstripped things like, Warren Ellis is a creep and other articles that they were running with. And so it's in their best interest to hype and dramatize this as much as possible. Doing an article that says, DC Comics will continue to look for additional positions to reduce as they, chart a path for whatever their future is. Yeah, nobody's going to click on that. But if you say third round DC Bloodbath happening, then definitely is. And in this article, it talked a little bit about some creators who woke up and read the March solicitations and discovered they didn't have a job. Now, here's the interesting part. I don't know who's being, who is saying this to Rich, who is giving this scoop. It feels a lot like the kinds of scoop that Andy Curry and other people who no longer work at DC, who used to be the prime sources, so it used to be people that would tap Rich for things. It sounds like something along those lines. Because immediately some people went to Robert Venditti, Peter Tomasi, and some others. And what's curious about it is, Tomasi still has his Super Sons digital project. I am told Tomasi still has something in the pipeline at DC that we're going to find out about in the next few weeks for April. I'm told that Venditti, same thing. There's a project that he's very excited about that's coming up on board. So who are these creators who are suddenly going to Twitter and trying to find work and discovered that they no longer have a job? It's hard to pin that down. Now, I believe that is true. I believe there are some of those people who, don't have work. And I do believe one part of the story because it fits DC in general, which is they seem to be terrible. Just like they're terrible about leaks getting out of their company, they seem to be terrible about just general management of their stuff. And when I say that, I'm this is the marketing approach. This is like get ahead of the story. So like make a statement. This is don't let other sites, other news sites or YouTubers or whoever else run away with what your company is about. Don't do that. Control your own destiny. And it would be a zero surprise at all if, based on a number of people being removed in editorial and just general confusion in the company, if there's some people that should have been contacted who had a verbal agreement or some kind of understanding or thought that they had a title in March, suddenly read the solicitation, discover they don't. However, there is one part of that story that's a little bit dodgy. Can you guess what it is? It has to do with this video, this criminally underwatched video that I did. That was how a comic gets made. And generally speaking, if we're talking about a writer, no writer is going to wake up and discover that they don't have a book in March at late December. That wouldn't happen. Why? Because the book is already written and going down the pipe and getting, it's already largely been drawn at that point where we're into the coloring, the lettering phase. Same thing with artists. No artist is going to wake up and go, oh, wait a minute. I was expecting there'd be a comic in comic shops in 12 weeks, and it's not on the solicitations. I guess I don't have a job. That hasn't happening either. Now, could this happen to colorists and letterers? Absolutely. And I also think with DC kind of moving back on their line and publishing less stuff, there is less coloring and less lettering work that's going on. So if there's somebody who was surprised, and again, I think that's completely conceivable based on how poor sometimes DC manages their message. I think it's zero shocks that some colorists are like, I thought I'd have a gig in January and February to do some coloring work, and now there is no book, and I guess I don't. Completely unsurprised. And nobody at DC called me up and said, hey, that thing that we thought, the thing we talked to you about doing, we're not going to do it. I can completely see that happening. Again, there's not super messages, and you can pretty much take this any way you want. You could take it as, hey, these people are short-staffed and they're too busy and they forgot. It's a human mistake. You could also take it as they have a culture of disorganization where they don't put these things out. Either way. Regardless, this is not me saying no big deal. Please, nobody in the comments say, oh, so purchasing, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. People lose their jobs. It is a big deal. Work doesn't come in. It's a big deal. That said, just keep in mind, just have that grain of salt in your hand that at least part of this might be a unscrupulous website who known for wildly exaggerating things for their own gain throwing some information out that may or may not be entirely accurate, or got some information from somebody who may have an axe to grind, or is bitter about the company they no longer work for, giving giving Rich a scoop that then he exaggerates and runs with, and like an echo chamber, it just gets louder and kind of more dramatic. And then you get a number of news YouTubers and news sites, that are exaggerating it further as being the end of the world. And when all is said and done, it's unfortunate people are losing their jobs, but maybe it's not a bloodbath round 3. Just we'll see. Or I could be wrong. Second week of January, stuff comes in and tons of people don't have work. It's possible. And I admit when I'm wrong, so I'll do that if I am. But that's just how you should look at it, in my opinion. You should at least wait for more information, or at least understand a little bit about where the source came from. Here's what I don't get, just as a good way to wrap this up. I don't get why, Rich in particular, and the Bleeding Cool staff, they have a track record of overhyping things, of wildly exaggerating things. And in particular, if you're one of the people who has felt disgruntled, you felt like Bleeding Cool has made fun of you, has attacked you, has called you as a fan, scummy, or any of that, and I know there's a number of you who hold that view. Why are we taking anything that's said over there with credibility then? Why does anyone put any confidence in what's being said there? If you know, because it's been used against you, that this site wildly exaggerates things, why are we so quick to go ahead and accept what's being said at face value, given that track record? I would, is it just because this is news that people want to hear? I do think that there is, well, I don't think, I know it because people have said it directly. There's a number of people who are celebrating all of these firings and everything because they believe that DC wronged them in the past. And no mistake about it. There was some scummy behavior. There was a lot of gloating, nasty kind of things said on social media around, we took over the comics industry, screw you, ha ha ha, kind of stuff. And it is, there is some Schadenfreude. There is some feeling of just desserts. Absolutely, I get that feeling, and I can't argue with you. I think this is why you don't post nasty, gloating things. The world has a way of delivering some karma. So that's why you shouldn't. But all the same, it is possible to say, hey, what you did there when you were gloating about running people out of the comic industry, when you were gloating about fans can go piss off and all the rest, that was scummy behavior. It hasn't changed. Nothing is different. Terrible behavior. At the same time, I'm not going to gloat at you, now suffering, being not having a job or being around the industry. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to be like you. You may deserve it. You absolutely may deserve it for what you say. You may have asked for this, but I still don't want to be you. I don't want to be the kind of person who gloats and laughs as somebody leaves. That's just me. I'm not saying you should do what you want. You should absolutely do what your heart tells you. To me, when I see behavior I despise, it doesn't. I don't think, hey, when that same thing happens to the person who's doing this crappy behavior, I'm going to laugh at them and ask them how it feels. Mostly I'm just going to ignore them and let them drift off into irrelevancy because that tends to be what I do. But I don't, I don't know. Life's too short. Life's too short to be like the people you hate. I think anyway. I don't know. What do we say? So anyway, are some layoffs coming? Yeah, probably. Some are coming. Or is it going to be as dramatic as a round 3 bloodbath? No, it's not. Are the people? It's funny because whenever this comes up, people are like, is Tom King going to get it? No, probably not. He's got a screenplay in the works. He's got multiple series going. The people who are going to quote unquote get it are probably people you've never heard of. It was funny and sad. Just sad, actually, not funny. When the last round of layoffs and Bobby Chase was like, Bobby Chase, who I think is amazing, great person in the industry, nothing but respect for Bobby Chase, tons of knowledge. And so many people are like, who? I thought we were getting rid of Bendis. what is this? Who is this Bobby Chase? And what has he done? I'm like, okay, number one, not he, Bobby with an I. And like I'll take a Bobby Chase over a Bendis like any day, week, month of the year. That's just me. Anyway, I most likely we're seeing, based on the timing, we're seeing letters, we're seeing colorists, we're seeing some editorial staff, and it's unpleasant. No doubt about it. So I do wish these people well, regardless of what they may or may not have said in the past. Most of these people have said nothing in the past. I mean, most letters are not on Twitter mouthing off every day. So I wish them well. I hope that they bounce back, find maybe an industry with some health insurance, and we get past all this and move on and get some comics. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Leave me a comment below. Like, subscribe, click. No bells. No bells. Screw the bells. Thanks for listening.